So at first, I was underestimating this composition that they've been running. So does anyone know what the meta is on Haven? Uh, let's say, let's go to Outbound. What is the meta composition? What do you think?
Was it? I think it was Jet Silva Cipher, and I'm not sure about Smokes,
Okay,
but I don't remember anything else. I think Breach, right? I think
Omen and
Breach.
Breach. Omen and Breach, yep.
right. Woman Embrace. So the way it started, this used to be the cipher used to be KJ, right? And with the cipher buffs, KJ started getting out of Haven, and with the actual Neon buffs, I think a lot of teams have actually switched from Jet to Neon, which makes things like really difficult actually, in terms of entry, because both on the A side and C side, like you run into chips here, here, and as a Jet, you would only like you literally just updraft and dash onto the site, right? But as a Neon, you get run into like slingshotted into the trip like very very heavily, right? Like so, it's a bit of a problem, but still, with for the rest of the game, like Neon buffs are working really really well for Haven, because the map is so big, right? So any agent that allows you to rotate faster is like super super nice. So Neon gets a lot of value as a result. Okay, so this is still the current meta. Okay, but I generally feel like what Fnatic is running is a slightly bit better than this composition. And we'll see why. Okay. So how many of you guys love Haven as a map? Because I know it's like a very popular map.
It
I
has
like
its
it.
moments.
Why?
I like it.
Why? Because there's like a very like good reason why so many people love this map. Hey, Trash Panda.
I think for me, there's a lot of play. There's a lot of like angles, like sewers you can pick on defense. Like you can op, you can use a vandal, you can use stinger, like anything. It's like very flexible.
Exactly.
Also, like you can raise in like garage,
Mhm.
like so many angles you can like really hold in like
Yes.
for defense
Mhm.
and even attack. Like for example, you said you can updraft dash over the Crips main, right? And then I've also seen people updraft on top of the box right outside of sewers, and get like 1 or 2 if you can catch them off guard.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
There's
right
a
here.
lot of
I like that
places
position
you
a
can
lot. There's a lot of plays, and the thing is like the map doesn't punish you for making like solo plays, you know, which is why like everyone loves this map, because in a ranked, most of the time you're gonna make a lot of solo plays, right? The map doesn't punish you for that. The map is really good for taking your individual duels. That's why people love it, right? Because you actually have the freedom to take 1v1s, to make aggressive plays, to find people, and not get, you know, traded out for it, because people are gonna be spread out a lot more, because triple-sided map and very very big map. Okay, that's one of the reasons why switching to this comp, and again, this is what Fnatic has been running. So we'll go to Fnatic's VLR page. We go to Haven, and they started running this like for 7 games they've been playing this. I think they started picking it up when ISO was buffed like very very heavily, like and before their nerf, during the off season. But they continued with this, and I think this composition is like pretty good, in terms of like moving the meta forwards, right? We'll try to see like exactly how that works out. Okay, now we talked about how pick potential is really really good on Haven, right? Like you can make solo plays. So obviously when you switch to agents like Yoru and ISO, both of these agents are really really good at making aggressive solo plays, you know, even better than Jet in certain ways. Okay, because when it comes to Jet, versus Yoru versus ISO, okay, what do you think these two agents have over Jet, like that make especially Yoru a little bit better than Jet when it comes to playing for picks, playing for like, you know, going for solo plays too?
Flash.
Flash, okay. Anything else?
Util
And,
versatility to use for teammates.
Okay, nice. Yeah, so that's another thing, which is both of these agents have their utility is it's almost like they're duelist initiators, right? Like both of them have initiator utility, which is why you can run the double duelist here, which is why you can replace the breach, right? So basically you usually run the breach, right? Breach is usually the meta. That's what we discussed, right? But we can replace the breach because now we have two flashes, one here, right? And two of these things, which is very comparable to a stun, right? Because this thing again is a debuff, a stun is a debuff, right? You use it to you know, make fights more favorable. Both of these things have two charges, right? This have two charges, and the stun has two charges, but the stun recharges, and you get these two charges right off the bat, so it becomes almost a little bit better. Even though I would say stuns are a little bit stronger than this, right? It's easier to kill people who are stunned because they have damage, they have movement penalty, right? And this thing only does HP penalty, right? So in higher elo, what it does basically is in higher elo, HP penalty is not as strong because people have better aim, right? So time to kill is much shorter, right? And movement matters a lot more, so stuns are generally stronger, right? But because of their kit, you know, you can sort of replace breach and get away with it. Okay, what else? Like, what makes these agents, or especially Yoru, slightly better for pick potential than Jet? Obviously, ISO has like a really good kit, right? Like he has way stronger untradeability than Jet does, right? Tanking a shot with this thing is much stronger than taking a shot and dashing out, right? Like, you know. But what's the difference between Jet and Yoru a little bit more in terms of pick potential? Any other ideas?
The Yoru TP.
Yoru TP, okay, that is correct, right? So now there's a dash for the Jet to get away, and then there's a Yoru the TP for the Yoru to get away. Now, Yoru TP isn't instant like Jet dash, but there is something that the Yoru TP does, which is stronger, which is the range of the TP is way better than Jet dashes. So that can allow you to do things like, okay, let's say you're playing Jet here versus you're playing Yoru here, right? Can someone tell me what like the meta positions are to play on this map? We'll start with the basic composition here. Like on defense, what does the default look like? Usually. Let's see. So we have a Sova, right? And what am I missing here? Breach. Right, so where do people play mostly?
Okay, let's do this.
What's that? Or would you put the Omen?
Omen on C or B.
Okay, so let's
Usually on C because of the flash.
exactly, yeah. So the blind is
Mm.
quite nice to stop. All right, that's good.
Yeah, Omen and I mean Sova and Neon both Tailong.
Nice.
Like one to break the dart
Mhm.
and
What would you put the breach?
A-Link
Nice.
for the stun.
Yep.
And Cypher can trip garage and B.
All right. That's fantastic. Yeah. So these are meta positions. You can interchange the Omen and the Cipher. But
Cypher.
these are pretty standard positions for meta positions for playing Haven. If you don't know this, you should know this now. Okay. These are the positions you're generally supposed to play. All right. Now we've very well done, by the way. Yeah, those are the positions. Okay, so now let's say we are putting the ISO down and we're putting the Yoru down here. Right, where would you place these positions? Like, where would you place these guys? Because both of them are duelists, right? Like, so the duelist is playing here in the meta composition. Who should go here, do you think? ISO or Yoru?
I'm thinking, yeah.
Nice. Okay, Yoru. That's really good because it does something similar that Jet does or Neon does, which is where you can play aggressive positions. In fact, now this is where Yoru becomes slightly better than Jet because as a Jet, you can get up until here comfortably and still dash out and get away, right? But Yoru gets to do this much better and he can play this position or this position or this position or go all the way deep, right? and still have the same like escapability, right? That Jet does, except for, you know, it's not as quick, but you can play around that if you're at a very high level, right? So this is like a really, really good upgrade and replacement, right? So this immediately tells you that Yoru is doing a little bit better than Jet here. Okay, now obviously as a result you would replace the ISO to this position, right? Or like you could try other positions, but again, you can change this, and there we go. And we are working into a very, very similar situation, right? The stun is not as like this debuff is not as strong as the stun is, right? But it nearly does the same job. Okay, so that's where we are in terms of composition. Okay, and again, Fnatic has been trying to run this thing for quite a while now, right? Now we talked about this on defense. All right, now very high pick potential on defense. Obviously this turns the same thing on attack as well. The pick potential becomes really, really good. Okay, let's try to see some gameplay of this defense, and like what peak gameplay looks like, what playstyle looks like for this sort of game. Okay, the game we're gonna look at today is Fnatic versus Crew, because here we can see immediately their composition versus the current meta composition, which is the Neon over the Jet. Most teams are running the Neon and tier at the moment. Okay, and Crew does a really, really good job playing against Fnatic. They figure out exactly what the weakness of this composition is. Any ideas what the weakness might be? Like this is the meta comp, right? And this comp is generally, you can sort of consider this as like a composition that is well rounded. All right. So what is something that the Fnatic comp is missing that the meta comp has?
There's no like slide or like jet dash.
Okay, there's no dash, but we have a TP, right? So you might see things like let me actually go to an attack round. Let's see, round number 15. So even though you don't have a dash, you actually get to hit sites much, much better, actually. So this is round number 14. Let's go round number 15.
Taking their time, but waiting till that ult does come into effect. There it is.
So here we have an ult, right? Ult works really, really well. So this is an entry with the Yoru ult, but let's actually try to find the replacement for the Jet dash. Okay. All right, so this is just a punishment that Alfire tries to do. Basically, he hears the drone coming in, so he uses the ult on the Sova. And misses this a little bit. It's a little bit unfortunate. Are there any ISO mains in the chat? In the VC? Any players who play ISO? Okay. Alright, there's a little trick for ISO ulting that that we can learn, but Alfire doesn't do it, so it's easier to kill him. Alfire doesn't have a very good rate at getting kills on his ult. Either way, you don't have a dash to enter, but look at Durga. Okay, look at the entry that we're making towards A side. Okay, I'm gonna slow this down a little bit.
With it. All right, whoa, that's 2 for 2. He's not having that impact here. MTA doing wonders. And
pretty good entry, right? Like you would generally dash into the site or updraft dash into the site, right? And there will be trips here, trip here, right? But Yoru takes care of the trips way better than a dash does, like a Jet does, right? Because a Jet would avoid the trips entirely, right? But what Yoru can do is like throw a clone, which is the clone is going here. That's going to trigger all the trips that your teammates can destroy. They will understand where the trips are so they can avoid it. And then on top of this, he's also doing what Jet was doing, which is avoiding all the trips and getting into a good position, right? With the TP, right? So even though we don't have a dash for entry, we have a really good for entry, a really good kit for entry. Okay. What else is this comp missing over like a standard composition? What do you think? So we're missing a breach, right? What does the breach do, generally speaking?
The the setup like the breach can flash from long for Jet
Mm-hmm.
in that position when she enters like into
Right.
a smoke.
Yeah.
Like whereas Yoru has to like flash for
Mm-hmm.
himself.
Okay, okay. That's fair.
Also,
Go on.
easier retakes.
Easier retakes. Okay, that's good. All right. Now there's a certain thing that this composition has that this one doesn't, which are stunts. This composition is just missing stunts altogether, right? The stunts are good. Like again, you do have a blind still to stop pushes. Basically, the Fnatic comp is not very good at stopping hard set pushes, which is if 3 people stack and 4 people stack together and hit my site, if I was playing this composition, I have 1 stun on the neon, right, to stop a push immediately, obviously a blind, right, and then I have breach stun flashes that are much quicker and much more reliable to stop pushes altogether, right, when 3 people come together, 4 people come together and try to take a site, all these things this composition gets to do much better, right? That's not something Fnatic this comp is very, very good at, right? Like most we can do is use a blind, right, and rely on some flashes. These flashes or your flashes are much harder to hit to stop pushes, and obviously we're missing stun, which is really, really strong, and then the debuff is not really good at stopping people, right? Like it can make people feel uncomfortable in playing in strong positions, but it's not going to really stop people from actually taking the set. Casey asks, are these recorded? Yes, but maybe not this one. One second. Okay, I'm just replying to Casey. Okay, so you're here. Okay. Basically, most of our lectures are recorded. I am recording this one, but I don't think we'll upload it because it's a professional water review, right? And what like pro water reviews, they're not like great long term because the meta changes so much.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so the comp is not great at stopping stack pushes. Okay, Crew realizes this. Crew is one of the only teams that realizes this very, very early on. If you'll see like Fnatic's performance, like with this composition against G2, that they just demolished G2. G2 runs a Viper composition. It's a 13-3 like complete wipe. 13-8, that's okay. 13-5, okay. Liquid puts up a good fight, but at the beginning, like these guys were still figuring this out. 13-3, 13-6. These are pretty good scores. Crew puts a 39 like very late into the game. And again, they figure out the counter like very, very quickly, which is really, really nice from them. Okay, so these are a few things about the compositions. Let me see if I'm missing something else. Okay, right, and okay, so let's look at the pick potential thing that we talked about, right, which is the composition works really, really well in tandem with the map. The map has a really good strength that you can play for pick potentials. Obviously, having these 2 agents like makes pick potentials like really, really good. Let's look at a couple examples for that. Okay, we're gonna go to round number 10, and once we're off of these rounds, we'll actually go through the entire game. If you have the time to understand like how the game went between Fnatic and Crew. Okay. But round number 10 is quite a good example on how this composition is supposed to be played.
Wait, if Fnatic's able to crawl this back, yes, they
So this is
didn't
the
try to,
replay
they
for
lose a round.
last round. Okay, here we go.
But Fnatic,
Round starts. Okay, and one thing you're gonna see like Fnatic do a lot is running the op on Haven. It's not very common to force op every single time. Like Fnatic does it way more than most teams would. Okay, because again we're playing for pick potential a lot more. Notice like in this play where Boaster's just keeping the op with the TP up top here, which is really, really nice.
still in the position to be able to close this out.
It's beautiful. I love this smoke. You can use this smoke to avoid exactly this thing, which is people who are holding from up top, their angle gets blocked. And you can peek, you can use the smoke as a one-way a little bit from long, and as it drops, you can peek with it.
Rolling back the
But he gets a really nice pick off of this. Like he sees some heads pop.
and the man to draw
sir.
blood.
Huge pick potential. It stops this push nearly. Right. We have a Cypher on site here as well. You will see that Fnatic plays Cypher here a lot more. And we'll talk about meta a little bit more, or like how the meta changes a little bit.
The smoke's there as well. Do they dare disrespect it? No.
And then obviously we have our Omen still here. Bolster is still here. Right, he just got a kill. He's trying to rotate early because he just got a kill, so he thinks that people are gonna hit something else because they know there's an op here, and an Omen here. So he's ready to blind them and stop the push.
But look at the mid walk as well. The timing could be right.
And then this is the next pick potential, which is you can do things like this. Like you can push down mid a lot more comfortably than you would be able to on a jet, for example. Right. So it's a lot of like shuffling of like basic roles, right? Like usually you would see something like the op being run by the jet here, right? So you can change that over to your Omen, right? And the Yoru can push way more freely down, like deep into positions, and look for these positions on good, look for these picks on good timings, right? You do this, the round is pretty much over, generally speaking.
Now into this round.
So I'm gonna mute this, and we're gonna speed this up, see what crew tries to do for the rest of the round. Fnatic's just gonna play for rotations, right? Obviously, mid rotations work really, really well for Fnatic because we have TP on 2 agents. Smoke comes here. Really nice shot from Kisnet. So fake towards C with the blind, and push towards garage from crew, which is really, really smart. And then they start looking for picks on B. Particle gets a pick here, and these rotations, honestly, crew plays this really smart, like the game, like really, really smartly. Okay, but Fnatic can afford to drop the entirety of A side because they have something that makes retakes really, really easy. They don't have a breach ult for a retake, but they have an ISO ult, which farms really, really fast because your ISO is going to play super aggressive, right? So he's getting a lot of kills, is dying very often, right? And you can farm this much easier as well because less amount of orbs you need for the ult compared to the breach ult. Right. And now this happens, right? You just entirely remove one person from the site. No, and you can start retaking off of this. It becomes quite easy after that. Okay. One more thing you need to understand, like one more thing, like you should know why we are running the Yoru over the jet here. We saw the example where the Yoru entry on A site was so strong. Okay. And that's like a direct counter we're using against the Cypher pick. Because, like we talked about earlier, because the KJ turned into a Cypher here on this map, right? And Cypher is now de facto the only like Sentinel that all teams play essentially on this map. You want to have something that hard counters it rather than sidesteps it like Jet. Okay, so Yoru is like a very, very good way to deal with Cypher setups, right? So it's a power creep basically, right? Like Cypher becomes really, really powerful. So any agent that hard counters the Cypher becomes really powerful as a result as well. Okay, so that's another reason why we're seeing the Yoru a lot more here. Okay, or seeing Fnatic run the Yoru. Okay. This was round number 10. Let's see another example of like a good pick potential round from Fnatic. This is quite nice from them actually. They do a timeout. So what Fnatic has been doing this whole time is they're running the same default that we talked about, right? Which is, okay, let's go to the beginning of this round. All right, so very similar default, right? Like we talked about Omen playing here, Cypher playing here, right? And usually like the Yoru would play here for most of the games, like for most of the rounds. And the ISO would play here. But this round as well, like the ISO is essentially doing the same thing, right? Obviously, SOA is doing the same thing. So after doing the same default that we saw earlier, right, post timeout, Fnatic changes things a little bit, but they show that they're still doing the same thing. Most of the time, when you call a timeout, you would usually change your setup. It's how most teams play, right? So if you can show that to the other team that you're still doing the same things, that can be really, really good. As you can see here, like the setup is more towards A side, like, you know, you leave a chip here with the Cypher. Right. The stack is a little bit here. We're using the same sort of utility here, right? But A side is a lot more controlled this time. Okay, now we're gonna see a little bit more of like a good example of a nice nice pick potential round. Okay, so that would be that round number 12. Let's get here. Okay, and this is where, let me slow this down a little bit.
Impact is just unbelievable, but not out of the woods yet.
So, all right, so similar setup here. So what changes the position a little bit more? We're gonna see why.
A lot of ults to play with here, Josh, though. Fnatic have a lot.
Right, so blind used this time instead of this. Again, this is being, like, the debuff is being used from the other direction, right? So we use a blind, a recon lineup
Through, but Kesnit
that lands here. Okay, so a blind, a recon lineup, and a debuff, right? So people are really, really weak, right? Then you're sending in a clone, so people are gonna stay engaged in long, right? So people are gonna be distracted and they will be stuck in their positions, right? So this is like one of the most beautiful ways to actually set up the solo ult
still
here.
looking to be dangerous, trying to be the
Because
instigator.
people are debuffed, people are stuck fighting things that don't exist, which is a clone, right? There is a recon going on, right? There's blind coming in, right? So that people can't actually break the recon.
Attacks galore.
So law going into
They're
this,
trying
right?
to pressure them from the offset. Oh, so
So we get a pick off of Chronicles ult. This is a very common ult, as you guys have seen, right? Like, which is, you know, you just throw a recon here and then try to ult. Very, very common thing to do because most teams do an A default. A defaults are meta. We're gonna talk a little bit more about it later. So very nice ult from Sova in general, but this is probably the best way to set it up.
much damage as well. Chronicles connection on towards Heat.
Right. And we run the operator again, so more pick potential from Bolster. And Yoru is also sort of ready to
Pressure them
take
from the
fights
offset.
in case he needs to. Like, this position is quite good actually if he sees any sort of aggression.
Oh, so much damage as well. Chronicles connection on towards
Right.
Heat
So this could have been really, really good if Bolster doesn't miss.
is
Bowser.
divine. And yeah, look at the HP.
Yep.
Ouch.
So round beginning, we have one pick already, which could have been 2 picks off of the solo ult, right? And another chance that we had from Bolster was through the operator, right? So essentially, if they had 3 chances, like they had a chance to get 3 kills, they only get 1 out of the 3. That's all right.
So low HP in so many players. Breach down. I like what Crew did in the previous round where they were able to kind of put pressure on multiple different angles at the same
And
time.
Yeah,
Shy
Alfire
almost
can
going
take these fights way more,
down
right?
here.
Because of his kit.
He wants it.
Oh yeah.
That was a good attempt from him. It's kind of nice from Shy to actually play aggressive rather than falling back like most people would, right? This is highly unexpected.
But here, Durka sitting by the short position. Boaster with the
Let's
off.
speed this
Normally
up a
you'd see
little
the
bit.
opposite.
Quite a nice stock from Fnatic towards A site. Drone to reclear. These reclear drones, by the way, are super, super important, okay? At about this time, at like 50 seconds remaining, 60 seconds remaining, if you don't know how to use drone or when to use drone on defense, it's usually mid-round around this time to figure out whether people are still here or are they mid. Okay, these are the 2 places where we try to reclear things. Durka gets this pick, and he gets to take like these really nice fights, and then has an escape. This is nice. Bolster gets another pick off of the kill, like off of the operator from like a really nice angle here. Right. So highly relying on picks rather than playing on utility and retakes with utility, you know what I mean? Which makes a lot of sense. Right. And again, it works really well in tandem with the map. So the composition is quite nice because of that. Okay. Now the trade-offs that we talked about, which is, again, we do not have like stunts to push teams, like to stop teams from pushing together, right? Like I said, Crew realized this is like very, very early, and you're gonna see them to exactly that, right? So instead of playing split, as in having like, let's say, one person here, one person here, and 3 people working on A, 2 on long, 1 on short. That's usually what defaults look like for most teams. Crew decides not to do that because, you know, by now they know what Fnatic comps look like, and their coaches and their IGLs, they understand how to counter it. They come up with this solution, which is the solution to sort of fix this. So round number 6, we'll go to round number 7. It comes out after a timeout as well, so you can sort of tell that there's a lot of thought involved into it. But Crew, unlike most teams,
They're showing the op, they're showing corner
is gonna do something like this, which is a typical A default, right? You stun, you put the smoke down, right? You recon here, so no one can push past this line, and no one can push past this line, right? So that gives you all of A control.
They're showing
Okay?
the op, they're showing corner.
So they show that this is like an A hit, an A
They're
default,
showing that it's an A default. Like, Hero's playing A. They're probably going to leave him alone. Not expecting the kill trips on the site here. But now, the change
and
after that timeout.
immediately
Hey, you know
fall
what, we're going
back.
to fake this. We're going to go over. We're going to explore Garage for the first
So
time.
this is, again, this is a really nice recon from Fnatic to actually re-clear this area.
When it's not
Okay.
even being defended.
But this is where Crew, again, turns on their like 5-head, which is they do not play split. They do not distribute over the map because they know they can't be stopped if they stack together.
What
Right?
is this read?
So you're gonna see 5 stack, like 4 stack pushes. No one does this, right? No one pushes Garage with 4 people, like ever, like most of the time, right? It's usually a 3-2 split. That 2 is like very situational. 3-2 splits do not come at this time, most of the time, right? But Crew is gonna brute force most fights by stacking together.
The platform. How are you alive? And Crew are chomping.
And I'm gonna slow this down a little bit so that we can go into detail a
What
little
is
bit
this
more.
read?
Yeah, I mean, if you're Fnatic, you're just feeling the Crew are
It's very standard here, you know, smoke here, flash here, people enter.
The platform. How are you
Mark that there's a person in the smoke.
alive? And Crew are
Blind used by Boaster to actually stop them. Again, this is the only thing that they have, right? Blind is the only thing that they have
chomping at
to
the
stop
bit. They've got this
pushes.
red so
So
well.
it delays things a little bit.
Can they stick the landing? Rotations are in. Does Crew then adjust?
And
No.
now, right, like Fnatic doesn't really have much to stop them from
They're
entering
going
this side.
straight on in. Kesnet leading the charge. Three
Because there's
players
just
on
way
this
too many
side, though.
people.
It's difficult, and Durka with a missed shot. That ain't pretty. And now there's problems galore. Kesnet trying to get amongst them. He's surrounded. And there's going to be a
Wow.
judge rattling off shot after shot for Crew.
So if this judge wasn't there, I don't think there would be any other kills, right, on Fnatic's end.
Finally controlling the site. It was hectic.
So
It was
beautiful counter from Crew, right? I think, again, despite their reputation, I think they're coming up with beautiful counters. Again, it's really smart from them. Okay, we're gonna see the same thing on round number 8. Like, this is very obvious. Round number 8
Like
here.
more than one kill. The normal standard.
Okay, start with the standard default. All
Okay,
right,
but he's got this op.
and
So
then
they
mid round, what do we see again?
not
Again,
making
like a
the
4-person stack. Okay,
Okay.
now look at how closely they're playing this. You don't see this in the game. Like, this seems like Overwatch or something.
has to fall back. A minute still to play.
How much
with
they're
Evil.
stacked, right?
Already sent him scurrying.
It's the first time Shai's actually lurking towards Garage this game.
I'm gonna speed this up a little bit more. Beautiful shocks, by the way. Do so much damage here. Yeah, like second shock as well. Right. But again, why are they stacked like this? No one plays like this because they know Fnatic can't really stop stack pushes. Blind here, that's the only thing, right? Once the blind is done, nothing else. Right? Good information from him. And then I think Fnatic plays for the retake here. Do they have a Yoru ult for that? Yeah.
Side Durka gonna opt for the ult as well.
So yeah,
Oh, the Malphite's still
we're
looking
gonna use the ult to
solid.
collect some
Yes.
information
And he swings on it. That's
from
swing.
Yoru.
Looking for the ball on Boaster too. Desperate to try to do damage. He's done so much.
That's typical, right? Like the Yoru goes in with the ult, and then whatever the Yoru sees gets blinded, gets debuffed by Alphair.
And now Fnatic falling like flies. The Crew at the helm of this. Chronicle's got to run.
But it's free low for Crew, right? Because in early round they've already countered Fnatic, right? Same thing again. Maybe round number 9 as well. Instead of playing the entire round, I'm just gonna show it to you. Yeah, very grouped gameplay.
Not moving yet. Taking it.
At 45 seconds, once Crew starts deciding that they're
Look
going
at this.
30
It's
seconds.
wild. Who plays like this? It's insane. This is really nice. This time around, though, I think The only problem with
Reactive shields are out
crew this round is I think they run out of utility
Does get out at least with his
before they
life.
hit the
Crew clear
site.
in the corners.
So yeah, the blind stops them.
20
One.
seconds, they're running on time. They've got to commit to this.
They have so little time. I think they just mismanaged the time this round.
What's the game plan now? You can't pivot away. There is no running nor hiding. Already Chronicle backfilling the space towards Sewer.
And because they don't have any utility, you can see on the right side, right, 0 pieces of utility apart from 2 TPs. Right. The only way the standard comp counters this one is through utility, right? So once they run out of utility, even on an eco, Fnatic can just hold good crossfires and actually get kills. This position that that these two players are playing in, the ISO and the Omen, is the strongest position on the map, right, to hard hold the site. Okay. So I would really recommend that you play here.
Fnatic are here. They are making their stand. They're trying to dig in for Crew, prying them out.
Crossfire, okay.
First foul, but the follow-up's looking good. Fnatic
Beautiful shots from Booster and again Alfire.
maybe
Really nice
finally
crossfire.
finding the fall, but a 1v2, and it's Kesnit, the Death Dealer himself
No
for
time.
time. I don't think he's got the time for this.
There's just no
Chronicle.
time.
He just has to play to the clock, and he does.
Lucky, right? Lucky for them. All right, so that's the counter for it on defense. Okay, now we move on to attack. I think. Let me go through my notes real quick. Any questions so far? Any ideas that you guys might have? Anything that seems off in the compositions? Okay. All right, we talked about comp substitutions, right? Like the changing aspects, right? Like the power dynamics a little bit more difference between like support and aggro, like the way things changed based on like how we switched the comp and like how utility got changed. Right? Let me see. Okay, so I want to show you the default one more time, right? Like the one that we came up with, right, while we were doing the value plan. That Fnatic was obviously running on defense. Is here. And you can see them play this
Yeah, but Hero's
exactly like this, right? Cypher plays here, hard hold C site, Omen plays here, right? Like I said, interchangeable positions, right?
Get his
Yoru plays here or A-long, one of the two, right? Like a Jet would, right? Either the Jet would play here or short.
first test of the map right here.
Right. Typical smoke,
Round 4
typical stun line that we use the Yoru debuff for.
over on
Recon, typical,
C.
right?
Fnatic give him so much faith
It's quite a nice way to deal with this, right?
in his just ability to lock it down. So many times I see him just pop the cage, peek out, get a 3K spray down. But Crew was just doing
Right. Now, another thing is something that you want to pay attention to from crew as well is grouping together. Apart from the fact that like it's a hard counter for the other the composition, especially in this round, like you want to think about this when you play your ranked games, which is when you have a full buy and the other team doesn't have a good buy. Like this is the bonus for Fnatic, right? Half buy basically. What you don't want to do is give up your guns and drop them in positions where the other team can take them, right? So a very nice way to deal with this, to avoid sending your guns over to the other team, is just by playing grouped again.
it to apply.
So
Crew, they need
Crew's
to kinda
gonna
get
do
the lay
that
of the
again.
Yet, we've only, I think
Yeah,
beyond that
and being very, very careful.
Yeah.
Because again, because Fnatic has such a bad economy, right? They have to make aggressive plays. Most of the time, they have to make aggressive plays, which means playing really aggressive positions like this. So, right? People playing up close here, people playing inside here, right? So
Yeah.
super
Get
important to drone these positions out. Usually, you might save the drone for mid information or like. Usually you would see like people getting up here and then droning through short to take the A site, right? But it's way more sensible on an anti-eco run, like I would call this, to use the drone to clear angles up close
that tempo down.
We haven't
and
seen them
remove any sort of aggression from the other
or
team.
Garage yet. We've only seen them go B on that pistol round. We haven't seen them go C yet. Everything's been
Nice.
towards A
As soon
right
as they attack
now.
something,
I
right.
think Fnatic have a
they
good
group
idea.
together, wait for someone to come out of the smoke,
Durka actually is on the outlaw right now.
But
I
surely
think they were toying with
sticking
the
together,
idea of
making sure that if anyone dies, right, anyone dies on crew site, their gun would be picked up and would be kept safe by the rest of them, right? Could be thrown off the map.
Full purchase with
They
the op, I'm
were.
pretty sure.
They were chopping and changing right until the round started. But there's not that
Unlucky from Durga. That's a very good
many
shot
light shields
from
here,
Shy.
just one in the end. I think that's with MTA. Shy going to be able to withstand. Whoa!
So really close.
Ooh.
Lucky boy.
Starting to get that, really reading into it.
This is nice from Crew, actually. Most teams in this situation, when they get discovered like this, would actually hit C site, right? Because they just got spotted, like 2-3 people got spotted. It was obvious that they're hitting A site, right? Most people would fall back and hit C site as a result, right? They decide to cut noise and
Demons
create pressure on Fnatic to
again,
make
if
a
you
gamble.
watched Fnatic play this, there's, you know, there are trends to it, there are tones to it. Chronicle
Then take the
really
side
force
off
the
first.
angle and through, then get the site. Clear enough approach. Whoa,
Look quite
hold
nice.
on. I say that. There's still threat here. Still Kesnit keeping this safe. They're the walking wounded, but they're still alive. The plant's in play and out for.
Right. Okay, so that is something that you should know. Okay. We're gonna go move on to another round. I think that would be important. Number 6, not so much. You should look at round number 5 here, because this is another thing that this composition gets to do that most don't, which is intercept side takes.
You saw it
Whenever you have breach ult, for example, usually you would take you would use it for retakes, right? But ISO ult can be used for interception
with
ult.
earlier on the map
Right,
now.
so we're gonna see Boaster peek a little
Boaster
bit
got
down
the chopping
mid.
block, and he's gonna be very
Crew again playing group together, waiting for Fnatic to do something aggressive because, you know, high pick potential
careful how he
composition.
plays this. Kesnit has been a threat through and through.
Decide
They're
to take B
respecting him
side.
enough, giving him a
It's
little
pretty
bit of
obvious
space to play
for
with the
Fnatic.
Like,
And again, at this point, again, this is something worth understanding. Because the composition is made for pick potential. If the opposite team is playing group together and that they're playing like very aggressive, you wouldn't take a frontline fight. Like you wouldn't take like a direct fight, right? Because that doesn't work in your favor. Like usually you would take like a flank fight or like you know, a perpendicular fight. Let's say Crew is moving towards B, right? It's better to intercept from the side rather than take a frontline fight. Right? That's what the composition is sort of made for, right? But they also get to do things like
connect up.
this,
The Paranoids have been great
which
for both,
is
to be
it's
fair.
a very typical B side execute, right? Like you TP onto the site, you plant, and then you TP out, right? And then your teammates all play for post plant, which is anyone who's gonna try and defuse the plant. You'll spam them, but you would also, you know, use your aftershock, your shock darts, stun lines as well, right? This is a very typical B side plant
He has been set up a lot of his
that can
action. There's that one.
completely be countered like this again,
If you want.
with the nicely timed ult from Alpha here.
Melza in the domain expansion. Oh, he
Which is really unfortunate that Alpha loses these.
got him! Big punish there. Melza doing wonders. Does
Let's
get
trade here, traded out right
hit
away.
with the trade come. And Fnatic trying to destination more often.
Closer rear.
This is actually really good from Crew to actually hit C side, because most likely, most of the time teams would actually hit A side, because coming back from B, A is much easier to hit, because if you go towards C, clearing these spots is really difficult, and you get discovered very early on. But if you hit A side, you won't get discovered until very late, until you get close. So you can get to the execute positions, like close to the team, close to the site, sorry, without getting discovered. But for C, you get discovered early. So again, Crew keeps doing things that are unexpected, which is a very key fundamental way of playing the game, generally speaking.
Read all these rounds has been
Quite
pretty
unexpected.
right
Once
now.
they feel like they have enough space, they just go full
The big
send.
read for
The hero
Take the
over-
site.
Sun is gonna have that off.
This one
It's
again,
wait.
I don't think
Build
there's
land of the spike.
anything Fnatic can do here. I think they just go for a save because the operator and everything. So it's quite nice from them. All right. We looked at site retakes. Okay, we looked at high counters. We looked at why this composition was good on defense. Now let's move towards attack. Okay, then we're gonna go a little bit more into detail. Okay, so back to meta. How does this map work? Okay. Now, tell me the standard default like that you would have from a meta comp. on attack? Like, what do teams do at the beginning of the round and at mid round? Does anyone know? This is a really important thing to know about the map. How would you approach the map in general? Full buy versus full buy. Like, what do you think is the meta strat?
Like it's three it has three sides, so
Yeah, 3 sides. Okay. So,
yeah, so it's very easy to pull rotates over to
yes.
A or C.
Okay. Does anyone know how most teams start their rounds? Like, which area do they take first? Which area do they take later?
They smoke brick A long and they take A main.
All right. I mean, okay. Yeah. So most teams, if you've been watching a lot of VCT, the way the game starts is the attackers would take this area first and this area first, like we just looked at earlier, right? That crew was doing was a recon here, this here, stun here, okay, like this, right? And then they would take a bunch of space here, right? And usually it will be the Jet, Omen, the Cypher would probably lurk with either trying to get deep trips here or trying to lurk up mid, right? So what can maybe assist with mid here? Maybe Omen can lurk with the Cypher sometimes, right? But usually, you know, it could be something like this. Okay, so this is a typical way to play the game. Usually you will start off with this space. Okay, so you want to understand how the meta works. Okay, so you start off with this space. Okay, and once you have this space, you look for protocols essentially, which is okay, are they fighting for this heavily? Is it possible for us to execute A site and get a win condition right away? If not, most teams would actually fall back and work on garage. Okay, and this is where what you were saying earlier comes into play, which is it's a 3-sided map, so pulling rotations is really easy. So when you start with A control, right, you would have slight rotations towards A, right? But when you fall back towards garage, right, it very often seems like, you know, a fake A and then hitting a C site, right? So because people do slight rotations first, when you go towards garage and when that demands rotations, the second time the rotations are not slight, they are much stronger, as in people overcompensate. You know what I mean? It's way more likely that if a fake has happened, that the other side's gonna get hit. So people over rotate very often. So this has basically become meta, which is you take a bunch of space here, right? You fall back, you take a bunch of space in garage, right? And then once you have like pull the rotations like this once and then twice really heavily, then there are a lot of openings on sites that you can exploit and hit the sites. Right? So a very standard way to play. Now Fnatic doesn't do that. They can't exactly do that actually with the composition that they're running. We do not have a stun, and we're missing a bunch of utility as well. Right? So Fnatic changes this quite a bit, and we're gonna see this here. Very heavy change in playstyle. Round number 15 is where we'll start. Because pistols don't matter as much in terms of compositions. Okay. Should be round number 15, yeah.
Faces.
Animated, and that does make such a big difference. I mean, you saw it with
This is a very common thing, by the way, to do on the Cypher.
in map 1 until that, well,
Which is rather than doing an A default, Fnatic always starts with the mid default. And it's not a very heavy mid default where they're taking garage control. It's just they usually mark this down. Okay. This round makes sense because there's a minor buy difference, but still. They start with mid first.
the score got so close. They were very similar scenes.
Bunch of
but
spam.
as it stands, not too pacey off the rip, taking their time, but wait and see if that ult does come into effect. There it is. Let's see the value we get here.
And
First man.
yeah, this is actually quite a good round. Like you can actually use this in your games as well. Your cat has this ult, so it's gonna use it to scout
On the
people,
chopping block.
see where people
Potentially.
are, marks that, you know, MTA is
TA's
here.
got to be careful. Just
Marks
slip
him a
away
lot.
so far, but plenty of info here, Josh.
And again, we don't have stuns, but what do we have? We have blind, right? We have flash here,
Oh, good.
and a debuff as well, right?
Paranoia.
So it's a pretty simple, very easy kill, right? Very nice way to set this up, right? Works way better than the basic default for this composition.
Lovely unison between the two there, even three really between Durka, Hero and Boaster. It was tailor-made to take down MTA. Sights theirs.
Alright, so 5v4 here again. Not much to retake here. There are no ults online because too early in the game.
Don't know what Crew's gonna do. 5-on-4 in the favor of Fnatic. Crossfire in hand as well.
You're kind of banking on
Durka doesn't have another TP, but like, if he had another TP, well, it would be really nice for him to play this position, because he can TP out, like, and go to safety.
Kesnit to be an instigator, right?
This
Be the
position.
man to lead the charge to get back in it, but it's Mel that set it in motion. Durka falls.
It's an opening.
Yeah, this is a start. This gets him in the door. The smoke's still in play, so he
This is a really good smoke, by the way. If you want to play for retakes,
falls.
really nice smoke to
An
retake
opening.
with.
Yeah, this is a start. This gets him in the door. The smoke's still in play, so it can give them a fair fight, and that's perfect for shot. And
That's the other smoke, which is, I would say, arguably better for a retake. So you start with this one, and then you put this one afterwards.
the forward, bring a death throw from heaven, and now
I think it's just Boaster using it. So the retake smoke that you want to use most of the time, actually, for this is really good for hard hold, is this one on defense. Okay, I think Boaster does this, which is really smart from him actually, because what he's doing is enabling this line, right, and then disconnecting everyone who's playing behind here to take this line, to fight from here, right? So the defenders on the retake have only one option, which is like to rotate here or peek out of this into what could be a crossfire like this. So it's a really nice smoke from him. Very adaptive,
Nope.
very unconventional
Opening.
smoke.
yeah, this is a start. This gets them in the door. The smoke's still in play, so it can give them a fair fight, and that's perfect
really
for
good.
Shy. And the forward, bring a death from heaven, and now Crew's trying to
Unfortunate for them, Crew gets really, really good kills.
house. Boaster is irrelevant to outcome here. He can do nothing.
We're gonna see another round where they do something similar. It's round number 16.
But when you get involved
Again, we do not see an A default. We see a mid default
in
first.
situations, Fnatic
Smoke up. And Fnatic doesn't even go deep into garage to try to pull rotations. I think they should a little bit for breaking the chip. I think they're trying to do that with spam, but they're not catching the chip.
they use that Yoru ulti. They went straight into A though. That's not the Fnatic.
It's a lot of pressure towards garage, and usually this would look like a garage default, and an A hit would come in a little bit later. Right.
That I've come to
They're playing for a little bit of faster pace.
expect from this danger. They make it seem like they're going
Drone
C,
used
but then they
to
go back
clear
to A,
everything
but
up
then they actually go
close.
back to
Again,
C. We're not
same
seeing
thing.
that from Fnatic. We're gonna do a
Very heavy stack here.
alpha.
We talked about this earlier, right? Which is they hear the drone coming in, so they pop the ISO ult right away for punishment, and then take the site as a consequence. Should be these kills should not happen.
That's
Alpha
2
should
for
have
2.
been
He's
these.
not having that impact here. MTA doing wonders, and now the KO.
You can see how strong this smoke is. You know what I mean? Like people can play inside it. People can play behind here. Gives so much space for the defenders. It's a really, really beautiful smoke. Probably the strongest smoke on the map.
Begins on the site though.
Again, if you'll use them in your ranked games, people might give shit to you. But if you have 2 to 3 people who understand how to use the smoke, it's really, really powerful.
Divided, got to the back. How the hell did he get away with that one? But Fnatic looking cool and composed in these executes. This is Raps, I think, for Crew in this one, trying to bow out and keep those rifles.
4v5 doable. Slates MTA with it.
All right, Alpha. Whoa! That's 2 for 2. He is not having that impact. Here, MTA doing wonders. And now the chaos begins on the site. Durka divided, got to the back. How the hell did he get away with that one? But Fnatic looking cool and composed in these executes. This is Raps, I think, for Crew in this one, trying to bow out and keep those rifles.
4v5 doable.
Sorry, I was muted. And in all honesty, I would really say that this composition just is better categorically on attack than the standard one. Okay, standard one gives you better control at the beginning of the round, but this one can be used to get better control towards mid and creates way better potential, obviously, but then more so than that, you get better side exits as well because the entries work so much better against Cypher meta.
2v4, not doable. And part of the reason why that ultimate from Alpha is so good.
You just save here. I think that's like sort of forward there. Okay. That's pretty much everything that we need to look at. We can watch the rest of the game basically to see how the other teams are playing. Maybe we can pay a little bit more attention to micro. But that's everything you need to know, generally speaking, about why this composition is sort of breaking the meta a little bit. Right, the only one weakness, which is a stack pushes together, which again most teams would not do it because it's such a fundamentally bad thing to do on full buys versus full buys to stack as 5 people, stack as 4 people, and push the same lane. Because most of the time, if you do that, any shock that hits you, any nade that hits you, anyone who tries to spray you down, it does way more damage. And then once you get discovered, it's a lot worse as well, because you can, if the other team knows that you're stacked together, they can literally take the rest of the map away, right? And let's say if I stack push towards long, for example, right? And as a defender, I understand this. I can delay you, especially when it's the breach. You know, you can get delayed with stuns and flashes and stuff, right? And the rest of your team would just take the rest of the map, which is like push deep into C long, you know, take away all of this area as well, which is like closer to attacker spawn, right? And really just take all the map control away and corner the attacker team. Okay.
Sunset, and now they've been building it slowly but surely. 1 point.
But again, you can do that against Fnatic's comp because they don't have the same amount of punishment.
Very true.
7-1.
Con.
Remember, this is 2-6 at 1 point.
Very true.
7-1 in the last 8 rounds.
Similar start here this round.
Yeah, in that context, that's outrageous, isn't it? But now we had an aggressive start towards A. Sewer control gathered.
Trip
Break
broken.
of the trip.
And, you know, this is what you want to do most of the time, which is start with the garage default and then move towards A.
This is the Fnatic that we know.
Yeah,
come in.
This like map control.
Move
Gonna move a little
around.
bit
Crew,
forward.
next step now.
All right,
Kesnet
another
in that
drone to
sewers does
Rether.
not get spotted.
Push back the Silva. Push back the Neon.
Finally gets spotted and backs away. But
It's kind of smart for them to push this back, so there's a threat towards A side and you can pull rotations towards A.
that garage angle from Melzer.
And usually, I would really recommend going garage here instead, but B is okay as well. It's unfortunate that 2 people are marking this. Good
taking
stacks from
that
Crew.
angle after Fnatic cleared it. And Fnatic, whenever they go B and plant, they always have
And they move a little bit closer towards A because, you know, this is a threat still.
a guy go through garage to get that flank late.
Yeah.
Melzer's gonna be sitting there waiting for it.
Okay, they're getting brought to heal at least to deny the initial attempt
This is what, again, the metal comp is better at, which is denial.
to the plant. And look at the players now stacking up towards that connector side on A. And it looks like Shy wants to get back into it. It's Kesnet to draw blood first. Now the plant attempt with the fantastic paranoia. Fnatic controlling on that A connector and Chrono.
Beautiful aggro plays.
The patience pays. Takes away Melzer. And now it's on Heat and MTA to try and take those strides back in. The money, oh my, possible, but the timing on Boaster is looking absolutely on the
No way Bolster misses these, man.
money. Oh my god, he just missed his chance.
Swear to God, man. Every time I watch Bolster, it's always like something new.
Put on the cape.
Hey, Vandal 10-7. He needs to be a hero.
Put on the
Alright, I think we're out of time now. Alright. an hour. We covered everything about the composition. Honestly, it's just gameplay afterwards. You can watch the rest of the games. I think Fnatic isn't the only team running this composition anymore. After they showcased this, it's pretty obvious to a lot of teams that it's this is sort of breaking past the meta composition. You want to sort of keep that in mind. Even though ISO is not in as good a position as it was when it came out, it's still working very viably here. So especially in ranked, I would recommend experimenting with the Yoru and with the ISO a little bit more, because most of the time you're not gonna be running breach in ranked. It's usually SOA is more important, right? And not a lot of people play initiator. So if you're gonna be playing double duelist, consider playing the ISO, consider playing the Yoru, and that could be really good for you, because month down the line, 2 months down the line, who knows, this could be the new meta. It's a little bit harder to run than this one, so it's unlikely that there will be a complete meta shift. But if this dominates the current meta very heavily, it will be really nice to have like a better grip over Yoru and ISO and how they are played. They're supposed to be played on this map. Okay. All right, we're gonna end it for now. Next class I think we're gonna have would be on some theory, rather than a pro WOD review. Usually the idea is to do pro WOD reviews every once every week or once every 2 weeks essentially. Yeah. Okay. If there are any questions, you can ask them right now. Doesn't have to be related to this. Otherwise we're gonna be ending it for now. Hope it's good. Gives you a nice insight on how the meta is progressing.
Yep, that was nice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. We should have a 10-man coming up soon. Let's see you then.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to make it in there
No worries, no
because
worries.
I'm late on the wait list. All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
See you. You too. Bye bye. Bye bye, Shabak. Gonna leave. Oh, nice.